Alvin, man, thanks for joining us. I'm super excited about this, opportunity. And I will hop down and look at my notes here just so we kind of stay on track. But I really appreciate you freeing up the time to, stop in on the channel and give us some content that maybe I don't have the most experiences. I want to make sure that people that follow the channel, the people that follow what we do, is getting good content from all different channels. So first of all, congratulations on a major milestone, 4,000 rentals. That is no joke. That's a huge milestone. And man, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. We both started, as we found out a little while ago, started the business pretty close to the same time. I think I was ahead of you by maybe 3 or 4 months. Yes. But both of us started pretty close to the same time. Now, you went a whole different route from me. I run my business like a very efficient, like a side hustle, focusing on the easy, low time involvement. I try to target like 2 to 3 to 4 hours a week of work and just capitalizing on the most profit. You go the opposite route. I mean, this is a full-time business. I think you told me, how many cars are you up to at this point?
Right now, I'm at 53 right now.
That's incredible. That's quite the that's a massive fleet, especially the type of vehicles that you do. So
they're
big
just
milestone.
Most of it is started with one car, like I said, 4 years ago, and I just saw the need, I saw the demand, and I did a lot of research on what kind of car I needed, and I just went out on a limb and I took the plunge, I took the dive. And I said, let's see where it takes me. But I did, I have learned a lot.
Absolutely. Well, we want to tie into that. I mean, we want to tell us a little bit about your story. I know we don't have time to hear your entire story, but tell us how you got started. Tell us what was that first car, and tell us what market you're in, and go from there.
Yes, sure. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm born and raised, and I was a inpatient medical coder, certified inpatient medical coder as my full-time profession for the last 13 years. I've been doing it. And I work remotely. I work from home. I've been working from home since 2006. And, as I was doing it, I ran into some kind of ad. I remember it was either online, or I Googled it or something, where it said something about you could rent your car and earn money. And since I was working from home, this was in 2017, around November, I said, you know what? My car has been sitting in the driveway. Barely use it because I work full time from home. The only time I use it is to go to church on Sunday, or if I need to take my kids somewhere or to buy food. And I was like, let me try listing this thing. And it was a red 2009 Mercedes-Benz C250 base model. And
Great car to start.
Yeah, I listed it for $69 a day, and boom, like within 2 hours, it got booked for the weekend. And I was like, hey, that was kind of cool. And then I just kept it on there while I was working full time. I was like, you know what? It got booked again the next weekend. So I kind of noticed, I said, wow, there is a demand out here in Jacksonville. And that was my existing car. I didn't use that for Turo. It was just the car that I liked. And then I kind of stuck with that. I said, you know what? People might like these kind of cars. Because my strategy was, I didn't want to copy whatever Enterprise, Hertz, and Avis had. I wanted a niche product where it'll give people a reason to go with me instead of Enterprise or Hertz, because, as we all know, Enterprise and Hertz has unlimited mileage, is dirt cheap prices, and they just got a whole machine working there. So I wanted to go against that trend and buck the trend. So I said, let me go with some entry level luxuries that I could afford to go out on a limb and take the risk on. So, after that Benz, I added a Corvette. It wasn't expensive. It was like $25,000. It was a used Corvette.
C6 or C7?
Yeah, it was a C6.
Nice.
And that did really well until it got totaled on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, my guy totaled it, and my renter totaled it, and that was my first total. I've had 17 totals now in the last 4 years. So it's
You're way ahead of me. You're way ahead of me on that.
Yeah. I'm so desensitized with total wrecks, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, I basically started from there. I kept adding and adding. The more I added, the more I was getting sold out. So I knew I was barely scratching the surface of this market. And at that time, there was hardly anybody doing Turo in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the only one there, basically, that's active. And then as the years gone by, I just kept adding and adding. And I was at 10, I was at 15, I was at 20. Then I started getting family and friends who wanted to invest in me. And that really blew up too. So now I'm at 53 cars as of today, and half of those are investor cars.
Wow.
I only own half of them, either through personal credit or through my business line of credit. So basically, I've leveraged my credit to get a business line. I've leveraged my credit personally, and I've used my wife's personal credit as well. But then I've also established my LLC, which is now an S Corp. I converted to an S Corp in 2020. And now I have a good business line of credit where I could just get cars here and there if I wanted to scale up. My credit's paid perfectly. So I got a high credit score. But as far as
credit's very important. Yeah, credit's very important. If you have good credit to start with, it definitely gives you an advantage in starting the business and getting away from like the really cheap cash cars to luxury cars. 100%.
And cash is another option to buy, but there's also a way of leveraging your credit where you don't have to eat up all your existing cash. You could earn more money like on interest or on a brokerage account or whatever. For me, I like doing 0 down loans, 0 out of pocket, and then I let partners pay for it. But as long as I got a good interest rate, and as long as I bought the car perfectly, like well below retail value. Yeah,
you're right. When you can get loans at 2 and 3%, sometimes less than that, like inflation this year is like 8 to 10%, right? Yeah. So to me, it's free money. And there's a big, one of my last videos was about cash cars versus finance cars. And to me, there's a lot more advantages to financing cars. Especially with rates this low. So I'm 100% on board with that. Now, I do have about half of my fleet are cash cars that I have paid off, which definitely gives you flexibility and lowers your risk as far as overextending yourself. And that's something people have to be concerned about when they're starting into the business. Once you know how the business works, you really don't have as much fear of that going on. But I'm a big believer in that, of leveraging your money. Wealthy people get wealthy by leveraging other people's money. So tell me a little bit, obviously you had kind of a first mover advantage is kind of what you talked about. So you were kind of the first big host, but I mean, it wasn't long before you really dominated the Jacksonville, Florida area. I mean, if you go to a Toro in Jacksonville, Florida, like your stuff just pops up everywhere. And this is not just recently, this is for the last few years. Like you are the dominant host in Jacksonville, Florida, as far as premium niche, vehicles. So tell us a little bit, what do you do in your business that maybe other hosts don't do to create such a phenomenal experience for guests? Because your reviews are outstanding.
Yeah, great question. My goal is to give them an experience that they will never have in Enterprise, Hertz, or Avis with the big racks. So the first experience is to give them a car that they can't find over there. So that's why most of my cars, you can't really find it there. Then second of all, communication, like immediately communicate with them. As far as when they book it, like within seconds, I'm already saying hi to them on my cell phone. Like I text them, say, hey, this is me. This is your host for this car. Thank you. Here's my cell phone. And I'm done. And then I start sending them other messages, like I send them a video of my car, of how to operate it. So that eliminates any questions. I got a YouTube video on all my cars, like a 2 to 3 minute quick video, shows you all the basic functions of the car. And they love that. So that eliminates time for me explaining everything on the car, and they know what to do. Another way is once they text me or call me, I respond within 10 seconds, like literally like 10 or 20 seconds most. And they love that because it's almost like they're talking to me live, but they're texting me live. And anything, and it doesn't matter what time. They could text me at 11 p.m., 7 a.m. I try to reply as fast as possible. I'm 24/7. I leave my bookings available anytime because I do remote handoffs. So all I got to do is prep it before they pick it up. I leave it set and forget. I set and forget. And it's so convenient for them because once they get to my lot or the airport, they know exactly where to go and they know where the keys are at. They're in and out in less than 20 seconds. Wow. That's why they love it. And then it's so convenient for them to return it. They do the same thing. They just park the car and leave the key. Done. No, there's no need to wait for me. There's no need for me to wait for them. And so the advantage is there's no paperwork. There's no long lines. There's no signing all kinds of crap. And they're literally out, in and out. And I take pictures. I even tell them, you know what, you can take pictures if you want, but I have them already. So if you're in a hurry, so on top of that, with that experience, it's word of mouth. Like, they'll love that experience, tell 10 other friends. And I get a lot of repeat business now. And a lot of their friends go with me.
Yeah, that's you bring up 2 points. The two huge advantages that Toro has is the check-in process. If you're doing what you're talking about there, rather than waiting in line for a rental car company and taking all this stuff, I mean, the check-in process, if you can do a lot of your work before, a lot of the communication leading up to the rental, and guests can just literally just show up, send you a picture of their license and a selfie, and boom, hop in the car and go. I think that is a huge advantage to the business. And as far as hosts, I mean, being able to run a business remotely, like, you're right. I mean, everything I do is from my phone remotely. 90% of my, guests, and you're probably about the same way, are remote check-ins. So you don't even need to meet the guests.
Nope,
It's so important as far as scaling the business to be working remotely as much as possible.
Yeah.
And finding what you've done is, streamlining all your processes, making it very simple for the customer and almost, foolproof. And it sounds like that you almost give your customers a like concierge type service right from the get-go, where you're immediately getting yourself, making contact with the customer. So they have an open line of communication where any questions or reservations that they have, you're able to respond to them quickly. And, it's not that hard to do. I mean, we respond to everybody else we do from text messages. So
it's personal, because if you only communicate through the Turo app, a lot of times they're not savvy with that. They don't see it. It only comes through their emails.
Yep.
That's why I text them, like, my personal phone. I say, hey, here I am. Anytime you want something, call me or text me. And by the time they pick up the car, they know exactly what to do already. They know where to get the key, know everything. And it's just too easy for them. And I love it. And even airport drop-offs are so easy. Once they get out of baggage claim, they're in my car in 2 minutes. I mean, it's literally right across the street from the baggage claim. And when they need to go return it at the airport, they just park it in the same garage and boom, they're out in 2 minutes. So it's
100%. Yeah, 100% on airport. Every person has a different situation for their airport delivery. That could be like a whole YouTube video. But the important thing to take away from what you said is you have to have a easy, seamless, consistent setup at the airport, whether you are parking in a garage, leaving a ticket, giving them directions. Airport, delivery and airport rentals can be a huge part of people's business depending on what your city is. But it's so important to have the same process, a simple process, a streamlined process that's easy for the guests. So I 100% agree on that. And I also agree with you as far as starting a text communication line with the customer. A lot of people online recommend, oh no, only communicate through the Toro app. Well, I don't agree with that. In fact, if I can't get a text line, a secondary number, I need a cell phone number of the guest of who I know has the car that they're going to respond to. I'm not even comfortable giving my car out, because if they're not responding to me in the app, like, how am I going to get a hold of this customer? So I do the same thing. I immediately want to open up a line of communication through a cell phone number. If that number they have in the Toro app is not working or they're not responding from, I'm immediately asking them, hey, is this the right number? Do you have a new number? Because I want to have a secondary line of communication and something that they're going to see, whereas the app they may not see. Good point.
Yeah, because I automate my messages as well. I use, CarSync or Street Smarts I get all the automated messages, and they see it sometimes on Turo, but I notice a lot of them never reply there. That's why I said, you know what, I can't rely on this. I'm going to get their phone, and Turo gives you their cell phone anyway. So they want you to communicate with them. So that's why I text them right away, and boom. And then once they see that, they know where to go. So especially if you want to scale this business, man, it's like, there's no way you could meet people every time. Like, you got too many cars to deal with. You got time of the essence. Imagine if I had to wait for each person at the airport.
Jeez.
And so that's why, for me, it's set and forget, man. That's the way to do it.
Absolutely. I got a video coming out about the top 10 things, top 12 things that new hosts mistakes they make, and one of the top things is trying to coordinate airport delivery where you're meeting customers. It's fortunately it's something you'll only do once or twice because you cannot coordinate when a flight comes in. Like how long it takes someone to get through baggage claim. It's just impossible to do. You'll be banging your head against the wall against the wall. So good point.
Yes.
All right, Alvin, let's move on a little bit here. And so one thing, we have a lot of things in common. I'm a Christian, I'm a family man. My family, my kids are the most important thing to me. You've got, I believe, 4 kids, right?
I got 5.
five kids, happily married?
Yes, almost 15 years now.
Wow. Good for you, man. That's super, super happy. That's what's most important. And so tell us a little bit, how has the Toro business affected your family, positively? And how did they adjust with dad, working to all of a sudden dad's like constantly running around getting cars ready? And how did you incorporate that into your family life?
Yeah, it was a big transition because what happened was while I was doing my medical coding job, that's what I've been doing for 13 years. Then when this tour stuff started adding more time to me, it became to a point where I was getting overwhelmed with my time trying to do 2 jobs at the same time. I mean, for the first couple of years, I could still manage it because I only had between 10, 15, 20 cars. But once I hit above 20, it started getting kind of crazy, where I have an 8-hour job and then I'm spending another 4, 5, 6 hours on Turo, or a little less than that sometimes, but on weekends, it was like, and I had no help at all at that time. So it was affecting my family. My relationships got kind of shaky. Like my kids started complaining. My wife was like, "Hey, you're never home now." And I was like, you know what? You're right. But I'm trying to establish this business right now. And I promised her, look, once I get this thing built up where I could let go of my profession and walk away from it, then I know I'll have a lot more time. So that's the greatest move I made, the greatest benefit of me walking away from my full-time job. It is so much less stressful. I have a lot more time now. I have a lot more time to run Turo now without my boss behind my back saying, "Hey, you gotta hit your numbers. You gotta hit your numbers." So it's impossible to run 2 full-time jobs at the same time. So once I had enough cars that I knew where it's taking up full-time time now, and I knew it's replacing my medical coding job already and some, I said, that's a perfect time to leave. So once I left, now I got more time. We go on date nights now. So me and my wife, stronger than ever in our marriage, thank God. And my kids, I get to go to all their baseball practices, volleyball games. I get to pick them up. I get those moments now, these priceless moments where I pick them up every day from school. I take them to school every day. So those are everything. I'm like, my main goal is to be the present dad, not an absent dad. But at the same time, I'm able to run my business. And I do have help too, as needed, on an as needed basis, not as a hired worker where they get W-2 or nothing. I'm just going to 1099 them at the end of the day. And they just work only when I need them. Like if I'm going to be busy on a Friday, Saturday, I'll like, "Hey guys, I got these cars. If you want to prep these cars, I'll pay you for them." So I pay them as needed, on a per car basis or a per task basis. So I got like 2 or 3 or 4 of them that I could always go to if I need to.
Yeah, that's a huge help because when you're running that many cars, bookings and stuff can come in at any time. So it's great to have a few people like that. And I'm a big believer that, for the most part, Toro is like a phenomenal side hustle. Even in the lower amount of car, like you don't need 20 cars to make it profitable. I mean, you can be profitable with 3 cars. It's a great side hustle. In fact, I personally run it as a side hustle. And if I ever get brave enough to quit my job like you, I eventually hope to be there, then I think I may try to turn it into like a full-time business as you. But Toro's an outstanding side hustle. I think it's one of the best side hustles out there as far as that goes. Can you give any other advice to people who are brand new to the business? Maybe they only have 1 car or 3 cars, or they're just like, they've heard about this Toro thing and they're trying to like, see, is this something really worth doing? Can you give any advice? Can you go back to yourself 4 years ago You've already mentioned a lot of good stuff, buying the cars right, making
Mhm.
sure you do your due diligence. I think
Yeah.
it's so important that, most of the times, not all the time, but most of the times, our competitors are not each other. It's
Mhm.
the car rental companies. So
Yeah.
anytime you can differentiate yourself, like having cars that they don't have, like the Corvettes or the, you
Mhm.
know, a C300 is perfect. That automatically differentiates. They can't get that stuff there. That's a huge
Yeah.
point. But any other little bits of advice? Is there any mistakes that you made when you first started that you're like, oh man, I wish I'd have known this?
Yeah. I've made a lot of rookie mistakes, especially my first year. I used to buy older cars that were cheap. Like I used to buy old luxury cars. I say, oh, here's a BMW. It's only like less than 12 grand. But the problem was that I didn't think about it. It had high mileage. It didn't have a warranty on it. Burned big time on those deals. Like the car would break and it made good money for the first 6 months.
Yep.
And that one big repair job wiped out 6 months of profit. So that was a big mistake I got. Now I don't buy older cars like that. I don't buy anything over 5 to 7 years old anymore. I try to stay within 3 to 5 years, that sweet spot there. Or if I could get brand new with a good incentive, I might consider that if it's a good car that will rent well. But I always get warranties now too, extended warranties. I got a good contact where I could get 5 years additional years and 100,000 additional miles for less than 2 to 3 grand. Okay, they pay for all diagnostics. They pay for your the deductible is only like $100, and it gives you more peace of mind. So that's what I learned, because when you buy a car with no warranty and you got a big repair job, it's gonna wipe out your revenue. So at least with these
Luxury cars.
especially luxury cars. Now, if you buy brand new, you already have the warranty built in, manufacturer. I usually don't get anything after that, but I mean, they'll have powertrains 5 years, 60,000 miles. So after that, I might consider getting something, but not initially. I don't.
Mhm.
And I build that into my margins too. Like if I'm spending 2 grand on this warranty, I divide it by 60 months on the loan, and I just add that onto the monthly as a barometer to see if it is paying for itself. And most of the time it is paying for myself, because you'll have a big repair job of 3, 4, 5 grand. Like I had a engine swap. I had to change the engine out on my Corvette. It cost 12 grand, and
Wow.
I only paid $100. So that paid for itself, and now it's going to generate more money again. So you will lose money on repairs and stuff, but you can mitigate that by getting an extended warranty. That's a good one. Like the one I have is a good one. There's a lot out there that'll scam you and they don't cover stuff. So I'd be careful with that. But as far as the rookies, okay, if you're starting with 1, 2, 3 cars, if I could turn back the time, you know what I would have done? And I'll tell you a tip that people don't really think about. You know what I would do? I would book a car from the best host in your city.
Yeah.
Book so you could have his car and you get to meet him personally and say, hey, I have a car. I want you to manage it for me. You partner up with that big time host
And learn from him.
Say, hey, I want you to mentor me. I'll give you a percentage of my car. Let's work a deal out. And you basically work out a partnership and do it for at least 2 to 3 months. So you'll learn the ropes. You'll learn the ins and outs. Because if I could go back time, I should have had a mentor that taught me the ropes. That's what I do now with young hosts now here in Jacksonville or here around the area, or anybody even nationwide. I'm managing cars for somebody in Maryland right now. And I tell them, look, yeah, I got a guy from the Maryland area. He has 4 cars with me right now. So I tell these new people, join me, partner with me for 2 to 3 months minimum. So I'll share all my secrets with you. I'll show you how I prep cars, how I take pictures, how I file claims. And within that 3 months, you're going to learn a bunch from me. And it'll save you thousands of dollars from making rookie mistakes that I made. So all the mistakes I made, you're going to avoid that because I'm telling you how to avoid it. And then I give them the option. Look, I'll give you a certain percentage of that car you're going to leave with me. And then look, if you like it, remain passive. I'll continue to manage it. If you don't like it and you're ready to go on your own, fine, take it, man. So that's the best way to learn. You got to learn from the top dogs in your city. So I'd book their car.
100%. I definitely agree with that. I think there is a little bit of, like, there's a lot of good tools. We're both involved in some pretty good Facebook groups where you can learn good stuff. You have to filter through. There's some people that are constantly negative Nancy, boo hoo hoo. And to me, it seems like their goal is to like scare people out of the business. So they think that's going to help them better. I think that's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to filter that out. But there's a lot of great hosts in these groups, these Facebook groups. On the flip side, I mean, I've seen just a ton of these no-name people coming out of nowhere that have their full Toro courses.
Yeah.
And then you look at they've got 2
Yeah.
cars on Toro,
Yeah.
3 cars on Toro. They've done 20 trips,
Yeah.
and yet they're selling a course. Now,
Yeah.
you know, I would mention Bill Huffine. I don't know if you've seen some of his stuff. All of his
Yeah.
stuff is top notch, really
like
high
it.
quality, good content, and someone who's like an original OG in the business and really has a talent for putting nice stuff together.
Yeah.
But how can people filter? I never heard that about finding whoever's the closest in your area and actually just trying to get mentorship from them. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, very,
I
very.
mean, because that's what I've been doing with people here in Jacksonville. They appreciate it because you know, I see the mistakes they're making, man. I'm looking at their listing. The pictures are bad. Their wording is bad. Their pricing is bad. The car looks bad. I'm like, man, I could help all these people if they just knew how to do it. So you know, some of them I end up meeting. I say, hey, you want to partner up? I'm going to help. I can help you. Or they'll ask me, hey, man, can you help me do this? How do I do this? I'm like, all right, join me, my team. Stay with me for 2 months and you'll learn everything. But yeah, the Facebook groups, I learned a lot from them. Don't get me wrong. And Bill Huffine, he's a good friend of mine. Me and him started about the same time as you.
Yep.
And he actually helped me develop a lot of stuff. And I give a lot of credit to him. But yeah, I look at the top hosts in Turo. And if they're sharing some information, I pay attention to it. And then get what you think will work for your market. Because every market's different.
Every market's different.
Yeah, just because these kind of cars work for me in Jacksonville doesn't mean it'll work for you too in your market. You have to study your market, know your market, and there's a lot involved with that too. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, and I think there's a lot of room for growth still, and it doesn't come without challenge. There's always challenges with, you know, whether it comes to how to deal with these kind of renters, how to deal with claims, how to deal with.
So 100%, man, 100%. Well, look, Alan, we're out of time. I really appreciate it. We've gone longer and deeper than I even expected. So I appreciate it. I'm probably going to have to cut this down to pick out the best excerpts, but you've given us a lot of good content, and more than just that. I mean, you're a positive energy. You're an optimistic guy, a family guy. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I hope that people get from this interview, not just about making money and you know, and getting to the point where you can just quit your job, although those things are great. But more importantly is that you can balance, it's good to have entrepreneurial desires, but you can balance it out with your family, and you do a great job of that. So I really appreciate your friendship and you jumping in on our channel.
Hey, thank you so much. You know, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much for having this this avenue and a platform for people to get help. And it's great. You know, like I said, anyone could do this if you do it right, and try to learn your best from the best mentors out there. Like I said, there's ways to do it. Make sure you do it the right way, and you know, and you'll be on a better foundation, a stronger foundation than most. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not perfect at all. A lot of people have their own ways on doing things, and this is just the way I've done it. It doesn't mean it works everywhere, but take the good in it, whatever you can find good in it, and try to implement that. And hopefully, I wish everybody the best out there.
Hey, thanks again. I agree. There's not only one way to do this business. There's lots of good ways, and there's lots of bad ways. And the goal of this channel is just to, you know, show as many possible good strategies to do this business safely. And that's what we do. So thanks again for being a part.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, Alvin, I'm out. See you, buddy.